Alright, this is the second video of a series I'm going to make. I'm not sure how many videos it will be, or if I'll just stop making videos because it's a bit too much. But it's about my experience, my story, basically, stories, about abuse. And this, started going back to when I was a child and going from there. Now, it is quite surprising that it would be to some, like my generation, we were basically, many of us, not all of us of course, but many that I knew from back then, were taught that you don't air your dirty laundry in public. That's how they put it. Well, that was a way that they could keep awareness, basically, out of the public. That's how I saw it. Or just awareness of what's going on inside a family home. And, or overall, really. It was just something people didn't talk about. But that's not the only reason, and you might actually hear it in this video, I think already would, is that at some point, now I'm not going to repeat everything that was in the first video, go back, watch it, I'll connect it to, I'll put a link at the end of this video that basically you'll see part 1, you can click on that and watch that. But basically I was talking about, like I said, my story, and it was a lot of abuse. From physical to mental, emotional, verbal, on and on, that I experienced starting very young, I'm talking really early. As a toddler, I think I had even experienced it. And from that, I truly believe from that, I at some point developed a problem speaking. I stuttered a lot. And so me making these videos, it's not that easy. It's never been very easy for me to make videos. But, about this topic or any topic, because of that problem I've had off and on of stuttering. Okay, now don't do it like I used to. There were times when I've had it really bad. And I'm guessing it's associated with anxiety. And I had been diagnosed with panic disorder, I don't even know when, a long time ago, but I also suffered from agoraphobia when I was 28 and then again 33. And I have a video I made that's not associated with this one, not connected to this one. I haven't made it public yet. I don't know if I will. I've done that more than once about my experiences with agoraphobia. And I did get counseling during those episodes. Never had it since, but 2 years after the last one, I got on medication for insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, and the panic attack and the anxiety and all that pretty much went away, but not always. I will experience times of that, especially when I get stressed, when there's something really big going on, and sometimes it happens with certain people. I would say that, it could be, my dog is tearing stuff up, but it could be so many things. But anyway, I wanted to make that clear that sometimes I do, sometimes I hear it, but it's not the same. I'm talking much worse. I'm associating with it with, see, I do that too quite often. Associate it with anxiety, panic. Okay, as I've mentioned in other videos, you hear this noise. It's my new puppy I nicknamed Mayhem. Yeah. He's tearing up a shoe. He loves shoes. But ones I let him tear up. He tears up anything. He's a puppy. But no, he's learning. Anyway. And so you'll hear various kinds of noise. The jingle bells is on his collar, so I'll know where he is at any given time. Not always. When he's finally crashed and burned, I don't know where he is because he's laying still. Anyway. Okay, also, in this video, I want to talk quite a bit about dysfunctional environments, growing up in a dysfunctional environment. Now, in my first video, I mentioned this about, I talked about dysfunctional family abuse, domestic abuse, domestic violence, this kind of thing. And this one I'm going to speak on when the dysfunctional side is in the environment. as in such a school system or just the culture of where I lived. Okay, I tend to say you, but I mean me. And it was quite dysfunctional. When I was going to school, I don't know how common this is today. I thought it was actually no more. It wasn't allowed anymore. That's corporal punishment. But I read something somewhere where, yeah, it's okay still. You have to have the parents' permission and all that. It just surprises me. It really does. Hold on, he's tearing stuff up. Okay, now, not only did I experience it as a kid growing up at home, but I'd also experienced it in the schools. Okay, and back then we had elementary, junior high, and high school. Okay, and the high school and the elementary school were literally right down the road from where I grew up. But the other one, the junior high, we had to take buses on it. Now I want to also talk about other kids and just how like I said, the culture was back then and what they did in the school. And one of the things was this is about corporate punishment. And they basically allowed, it was a big thing. And it was no matter what you did. I mean, you could do the slightest little thing. They'd send you to the principal so you could get paddled. And back then, they tended to do it in the hallways. And all the other students could hear it. And you knew it was extremely painful. And every grade, every one of the schools, that's how it was. And that's how they felt was good to punish children all the way to teenage. It was bad. So a lot of us went around paranoid that we were going to do, not paranoid, but just fear that anything we did, anything we said, would lead us to the principal. Now, that's not good. I cannot see in any way, shape, form, or fashion anybody would do that. Hitting a child, okay, to discipline them. No, I'm totally against it all around. And I do think that could be associated with why I stuttered, starting, I really don't know when. And because of the fear of anything you say. I had that at home. I had that home growing up. I had it in school. And it didn't just stop right then. Okay, no. But besides that, now that actually stopped. They stopped allowing it because the family decided to sue the school system. When I was in middle school, and a young girl got paddled, and they felt that the coach that paddled her, well, take it down a line that I'm not going to mention in video. Okay, and so the family decided to sue the school, so they stopped paddling all around, total, across the board, never again, which I think was a good thing. But, and as I said, there was this in the culture. There were certain people who were not allowed to speak. You weren't allowed to speak your mind, and it is in part, a political thing. Okay, and I heard this story starting when I was very young about my grandparents that lived there, and my maternal grandparents, and from my mother, that basically her dad was of a certain political party, and the people he worked with, he was a pipe fitter. He was a little guy, unlike most of the rest of my family. He was a short little guy. He was, I don't know if it was he that left, he was Amish. I don't know if he was the one left or his parents or whomever, but he was very mild-mannered, very sweet, the best person I've known my whole life, and my dog has taken my microphone away here. Okay, so basically Papa, as we called him, was not allowed to speak his mind. He was of a different political party than the rest of the men he worked with, and they tried to force him to turn to their political party. He refused, and they threatened him. I'm not sure what they did, but they did threaten him, and he refused. But they called him, nicknamed him around this time as Wimpy. doesn't seem to me that he was the wimpy one. He didn't need a gang to come up against him. He stood at his ground. This is what he is, and that's it. I'm not changing. No. Okay. But, they nicknamed him Wimpy. But my mother would tell the story over and over again, and she basically, as she got older, she said that was the reason why she was of that political party, not his, but that one. And because of whatever had happened. All right. And that was one of the things that my dad now, however, he was of that political party of my maternal grandfather. And he let the world know nobody bothered him because he was this 6'7", I think it was 320 to 340 muscle man, pounds muscle man. Okay. And nobody messed with him. So, but the whole feel of that, where I grew up, was you can only say certain things. And you had to keep certain things to yourself. So it was constantly something about being, something there, some pressure to be silent, to not express yourself. And that did not stop there in my life. That continued. Certain people aren't to speak. You can see this so much today, too. Now, me, I'm an independent. And really, when it comes down to it, so was both of my parents. Okay, that's a whole separate video. But yeah, having been taught to be silent so much, it was a problem for me. Okay, I don't know if I made that clear about my mother. She switched to that political party because of whatever kind of abuse that this group put out, and the fear and all of that. Not because she wanted to, because she feared for what was it? We were never told that, told that much, but you could kind of get the gist of it. She was afraid of her life. And I had experiences as a teenager when I was afraid for my life. So, but I've never been one who's been very silent. And I wanted to get to that part is that I don't have a problem talking about these things online. I started talking about it probably sometime in the 1990s, speaking out about domestic violence, domestic abuse, family abuse, and so on and so forth. It wasn't on videos back then, but I didn't have a problem, but it was seen as quite taboo. And so me, it's a little bit of a mix. And, why I... why I talk about it now. Back then, those of us who did were really thought of it in a bad way. It was so negative. And my grandmother, I did a video recently, but I put it on private. It was the first part of it was about my grandmother, maternal grandmother, and how she spoke out against certain things. And she wound up, they put her in an institution. So, because they said she was paranoid. Because those kinds of things didn't happen back then. And those things just didn't happen. And you can still hear that to this day. Okay, it's a little later. But growing up in this kind of environment, all of it, feeling fear for speaking for any reason, about anything, it could harm me and or my family. That's how I grew up. That's how... When I was 18, I got the heck out of Dodge. That's how I always put it. And slowly, it took a long while, and it still isn't 100% to be able to get to that point to where I could speak out and not fear. These days, yeah, seems like a return of that. Okay, but what about starting back then? Where was a safe place or safe space for me was, and I know some people have had trouble with this in their own lives, but for me, it was the total opposite. And that is church. Okay? That was my sanctuary. Seriously. It was a safe place. And the people that attended the church, I should go into one day about this church, for the most part, they were very holy people. They were what some people believe Christians should be. They weren't Christians on Sunday and hellraisers the rest of the week. No. Not all of them, though. There were, you always have a bad seed, a bad apple, here and there. And we did. Okay, one of them would have been my dad. And yeah, but overall, at church, I felt comfortable. But I have some stories about church maybe one day I'll tell, like I said, about concerning my dad. And another place as I got older, guess where that would have been? I've mentioned I was a career student. Yeah, university. That's where it was my safe place, my safe space. Not without problems. None of it was without problems, especially because I had panic disorder. The university put it as test anxiety. Okay, I don't know why it was that way back then, but that's how they did it. And I took my test, especially test. That was when I would have panic attacks, and that's when I first started having agoraphobia. They would let me take them in the learning center, they called it, and in a quiet room alone, and they had a, what is it called, two-way mirror, three-way mirror, whatever, and they would watch me, okay? So I wasn't cheating or anything like that. They did everybody that way, that had to use those services. And but overall, even with the anxiety, the panic attacks in classes, I would try to sit in the back. I had allergies really bad, people wearing any perfume. Yeah, these things. But overall, that was my safe space. And so at least I had one where I could feel comfortable. And as I aged, I was a career student, and I taught at college and university. As I aged, I was able to get to the point where I could speak out more and actually grow. Now, some people who grew up in dysfunctional families, they may see that a lot of people say it's the narcissists that don't grow. Well, your growth could have been, mine, stunted in various ways, okay, because of growing up in that kind of environment, family environment, whatever it is. Okay, I think that's enough for this part, but I did want to mention, I think maybe this will lead to more understanding of why my videos aren't always that together, okay? I've been out, it's so much more. But I'm proud of myself for being able to speak out. I know some people have problems with the way I speak, but that's their issue, not mine. I learned this lesson, okay, and there's so much more to that about being pressured that if you say or you do, that happened as an adult too. There was a threat to physical harm and to that of my family, okay, as an adult. So I'm going to get to that eventually in some video. Anyway, like I said before, I'm not reading any comments until I finish this whole series. Not trying to be mean, just don't want it. Well, the whole video explains it. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. I'll talk to you on another video, hopefully. Let's see.